Like, we are a consultancy that helps companies to be able to really think about how they're going to grow. Okay, we started in Silicon Valley, working predominantly with SaaS companies. We've worked with about 350, 400 to date, helping them to assess their business and really take a scientific approach to scaling their sales. So we're really excited to be sort of coming in here and sharing some of what we've learned in speaking with in dealing with our customers. As I mentioned, there is going to be a little bit of crowd involvement today. Okay, we want you guys to be able to ask questions and call things out. But firstly, I'm going to need everyone to be upstanding. Please. Nice and easy. Good, I love it when people up the front just jump straight up. Okay, because one of the things that we've learned when we're out there dealing with our customers, okay, is that your sales is very much aligned to your segment. And when I say segment, it's about where your annual average contract value is. So everyone here, if you're either working in a company or even if you're not, think of a company or product that you sold. And I want everyone to sit down if your annual average contract value is less than $5,000. Let's just $5,000. So if your annual average contract value is less than $5,000, sit down. Oh, there's a few people. I don't know how much. Okay, so we've got a few people. All right, if it's less than $25,000, sit down. Much bigger, all right? So about 50% of the audience. Okay, less than 100,000. Still got a few people upstanding. I like it. Okay, let's sort of push it out a little bit further. You're really not sure, are you? Okay. How about less than 500,000 per year? And we've got a couple of whale hunters. All right. Okay, so let's just say less than $1 million. Still standing. 2 million. 5 million. What are you selling? Sit down. I don't want to know. Okay, so look, just keep in mind, as we're thinking about that, we're going to be calling out these segments as we go through and talk about these different elements of how to adopt sales as a science. So, but as we go through this, we're going to cover 3 things, okay? Why we need it today. Okay, some of this is really focused around our work with subscription as a service companies, but a lot of it just applies to business because the changes that we're going to talk about apply to all B2B software businesses. Talk about what to improve and then how you can actually go about it. So firstly, let's think a little bit about why we need it. Big thing we've seen that revenues have shifted. Okay, this here is like a funnel that most of you know, but it's been flipped on its side. Okay, the reality is that for most of the companies that are out there that have been selling perpetually licensed, they make 75% of their revenue just at that point of close. Okay, this is that time when you sign the check, that's the most money that you're ever going to make with that customer. Occasionally you might sell some maintenance or you might sell an upgrade to those customers, but you think about it, that's where the money is made. But in the world of SaaS, has really sort of created a new way to be able to go and drive your business. And we find that sort of 75% of the revenue actually comes in this latter part. Okay, this comes when you're utilising and growing the tool. So it's not sales. That point of closing the deal, okay, is the time where you really need to be opening the relationship and helping your customers to be able to grow. Okay, so that's a big change, number 1. Now, this change that we saw of that revenue coming afterwards means that there's a new value, there's a new proposition that we need to be taking to our customers and in which that they utilise to buy. So we think about for perpetually licensed software and also hardware, okay, we find that everyone was really used to utilising a value proposition. Okay, so that's where vendors like you guys would have to go to your customers and present, this is the value that I'm going to deliver to you next year. Can you please allocate that in your budget so we can extract that from you then? Okay, it was very much focused on that value proposition. But as we're moving through to this sort of no queue and no pay on the left-hand side, like even usage, we find that the proposition has changed. People are buying impact. Okay? Everyone is so impatient these days. Like we're used to this in our consumer buying behaviour. We go on Amazon, we click, we make a purchase, and then we wonder why isn't the deliver yesterday option there. Okay, we want it immediately, and this is exactly the same in B2B. All right, there was a great study by the Corporate Executive Board that found they did an analysis on 500 publicly listed companies over in the States, but they found that when they reviewed their expenditure of the year prior, they found that over 70% of all their expenditure was unbudgeted. Okay, so that means going into the year, they didn't know what they were going to spend their money on. How did they decide on what they were going to do that? Impact. Okay, a lot of projects get presented, but the one that's actually going to drive the impact. Okay, and impact is either helping people make money, help them save money. Okay, for those people in that 5K or less, maybe it's a little bit of great UI, UX, or it's to keep people out of jail. Okay, when they're sort of helping people with risk and compliance. So this also changes where the risk lies. Okay, so if you think about it in that sort of value-based proposition where we're thinking about that perpetually licensed software, all the risk is with the buyer. If you get sold a dud, what's your recourse? You've spent your money. But that changes. When we're in this sort of impact world, all right, the risk is all on the seller. We don't just have to deliver impact once. We've got to keep doing this. Deliver that first impact, deliver recurring impact, and do this on a daily, weekly, monthly. Okay, does anyone know what movie this clip's from? A couple of nods, awesome. Hidden Figures, boom, even raising your hand, I love that, just shout it out though. Okay, so Hidden Figures, right? A great story about the role of sort of African Americans in helping the Apollo missions. But they had this one great scene, okay, where all these females were scared that their job was going to be taken by this brand new IBM computer that was brought in. But before they could even think about trying to use the computer, they had to install it. To install it, they had to knock down walls, they had to rip out doors. What do you think the IBM salesperson was doing at that point in time? Counting his money, sitting on a beach in Cabo, sipping his pina coladas, having a great time. Okay, all the risk was on NASA. There was nothing at all on IBM salesmen to enable people to succeed. That world has changed. Okay, another big thing that's changed is that sales cycles have compressed. Okay, we used to be selling deals. It used to take 9 to 18 months. It used to involve sort of starting out on the phone calls, emails. You'd jump on a plane. You'd take them out to a steak dinner. You'd go play a round of golf, jump back on planes again. I used to love selling in those days. Okay, I love my golf. I love the wining and dining. But the reality is the world's changed. Okay, we're now doing similar sized deals in a fraction of the time. And why? Because there's a whole new world of technology that's enabling us to connect. And more importantly, people aren't looking for the impact in 18 months. People want the impact now. Okay, so it means we've got to change the way in which we're sort of going and engaging with our customers. On the same vein, right, what used to happen in 10 big deals, we now do in hundreds. So the transaction volumes, we're doing more and more of these transactions. That means we've got to change the teams too. When you think about it, ordinary sales teams were built around a couple of superstars. These 20% of superstars delivered 80% of the revenue. When you plug this into the recurring world, if you rely on those 20% to deliver 80%, you're in a whole bunch of trouble. Okay, so we actually need to equip the teams to get 80% of your team delivering 80% of that revenue. And then lastly, and this is probably one of the most important ones, is that the methodologies that we've been using don't fit the new world of recurring revenue. Okay, if we look here and sort of based on the customer experiences, let's just sort of look on the way up until we get to the win, which is right here in the middle. Okay, the awareness stage, customers actually becoming aware that they've got a problem. They then move to education and then they start getting online, going to Google, having a look around, see what other solutions are there to be able to solve that problem. They'll get a list of vendors, they'll probably go click onto a demo, and then they go into that wow stage, and then they look to compare those different types of vendors. This is where our methodologies end. Okay, so if we think about it, like this is when we look at those last people. Okay, so where customers have done all the research, and then they just come knocking on your door and just saying, "Hey, look, I just want to know how you're better than the next guy." This is a solution sale. Okay, so this is traditionally was used in those companies that sat down first, all right? Less than $5,000 or euros, just smaller values, right? That solution sale. Taking it out a little bit further, we had the consultative sale. Has anyone heard of a sales methodology called SPIN? All right, quite a few. Neil Rackham made it very famous, all right, which is talking about basically asking people questions to uncover exactly what their challenge is so you can educate them on how they can solve that. The problem, it just might happen to be with your solution. And then, okay, we've got the provocative sales approach. This is made famous by the corporate executive board and their challenger sale. Okay, where's the old mate for his deals over 5 million? All right, very much typically to be able to get people to part with that kind of money, we needed to be able to provoke them, tell them that they had a problem that they didn't know existed. This used to be the bastion of really large deals. But today, where people are building innovative solutions all the time, just like you guys, made possible because of AWS, we find that this ability to be able to provoke, right, challenge our customers that they do have a problem that they didn't know exists needs to happen. But where do you see all these methodologies ending? Right here at the point that you've only made 25% of your revenue, right? They're totally ignoring the other part, okay? The fact that we've got to enable people to achieve that impact and to be able to grow with them. Okay, so there's a couple of changes that are happening in the world of B2B sales. So let's go into a little bit about what we can do to improve. And so to think about that, I'm going to tell you a story of a hotel in Los Angeles. Okay, this is a story of a hotel called the White Castle. It's not a very great hotel. Okay, think about those American movies. Think about those. Not quite like one of those drive-up motels, but not very good. They've put a lick of paint on it. It looks a little bit nicer, but it's skyrocketed to number 4th on TripAdvisor. And how did they do that? Okay, they did that with something super simple. They put phones, hotlines around the hotel, key points around the hotel, like the pool and the lobby. And all you did, you picked up the phone and they asked you what flavour popsicle you'd like. Then someone would walk out with a white cloth, all right, and a silver tray and hand you your popsicle. Just provided this fantastic experience. Okay, that was what it was all about, providing them an amazing, memorable experience. Had people coming back, had people telling their friends about what they were doing. And we find that that's exactly the same of what we need to be doing in how we're selling that with our customers. Okay, during our time of working with our clients, we've found that there's typically about 7 key moments that you need to be able to manage and you need to be able to master through the sales process, sales and growth process. But the challenges we find is that most people are actually, they're thinking it from their own perception, not actually putting it in the customer's shoes. Okay, so when we go at the first, we're going to look at a couple of them as we sort of go into a little bit further. So we look at, let's look at pain, not fit. Okay, most people, when they're trying to identify who they're going to sell to, they'll look at their last 10, 20, 30 customers, okay, go find customers that look exactly the same as them. Look at it from firmographic details. I need X amount of employees who have this amount of revenue and in this location. Okay, but the reality is that's totally missing why people bought in the first place. Okay, we've got to be identifying what is the pain that they're experiencing that drives them towards there. Okay, so the great example I've got of that, working with an agricultural technology company recently, okay, who basically digitised. They work with livestock, farmers with over 2,000 head of livestock, and they digitised what was written on paper. So they actually spent a lot of time actually going out and spraying their messaging out to every single farmer in the world who had over 2,000 heads of any form of livestock. But what they didn't realise is that they should have been looking for what was the pain that their solution solved. And their pain was the fact that they enabled these farmers to be able to certify their business, whether it be for organic or certify for export. So instead of blasting a very generic message out to everyone, they were able to do a very targeted message by focusing on pain. Moving a little bit further, conversation, not qualification. Who here knows BANT as a qualification method? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, quite a few. All right, it's good Microsoft got their hand up there. So for those of you who don't know, this was a mode of qualification that's still pervasive out there today. So it's an acronym: budget, authority, need, time frame. And there's still a whole bunch of people out there whose job it is to be able to generate leads for people. And so all they do, we listen to them on the phones all the time. They call up this person. Oh, hi there, excuse me, do you have a budget for this project? Okay, all right. Do you have a potential need to be able to do this? Would you be wanting to buy in a particular time frame? And more importantly, do you have the authority to do this? Okay, how do you think that makes people feel when you just get bombarded with questions? It's a bit like an interrogation, instead of actually just having a conversation with them, learning a little bit more about what drives their business. We've got to stop having these hard qualification points right at the start of the engagement and start actually having real conversations with people. Okay, diagnose, not pitch. Hands up if you've ever been on the receiving end of a product demonstration. Keep your hands up. Take your hands down only if you weren't bored. Pretty much everyone's hands are up, right? Because this is something, even I was guilty of this, okay? I've got a demo starting in 5 minutes. That's cool, all right? I don't need to prepare too much. I've done this plenty of times before. Get on the call. Oh, great, Mr. and Mrs. Customer, it's fantastic. This is what we talked about last time. That's good. What did you want to see? Great. And then all of a sudden we get to the demo and it's just, oh, cool. Autopilot engaged. And now you can see on the left here, and we can do this. And we can do this. And we can do this. It's just this horrible, boring, non-engaged process that no one wants to be in, but we're all doing it just to tick a box. So we can see something, okay? So there's a great saying that we borrow from the medical profession, okay? Prescription before diagnosis is malpractice, okay? Before you can tell anyone how you're going to be able to solve the problem, you've got to understand what the hell that is. Okay, so to do that, we've got to be able to continue to ask questions. And a great way to do that is during that demonstration process. Okay, so very quickly, mindful of the time, like we've got to start trading, not negotiating. Okay, a lot of the times, people get sort of worked up going into this negotiation. Okay, they go, all right, I've got to win this. This is going to be a battle. I've got to find something to be able to get this over the line. But the reality is, we've got to build a long-lasting relationship here. So we've got to start thinking about trading. Okay, if the customer if they want a 15% discount because they don't know us, we're a young starter, okay, don't just sort of sit there and give that up. What can we do to trade in return? What's important for an early stage startup? Okay, credibility, third-party stories. Can we publish our logo on your logo on our website for that 15% discount? Think about what's a fair and equitable trade for the value that is being exchanged. Okay, we've got to move, and going on to number 5, we've got to move beyond onboarding. Onboarding for everyone that we speak to is a box-ticking exercise of are the users proficient at utilising the technology? Yeah, a lot of nods. That's not onboarding people. Okay, we've got to be able to use beyond that. What is it for them to be able to achieve first value? Okay, what's recurring value mean for them? And more importantly, we've got to be able to orchestrate the relationship. So we're not giving them a call at 9 months into a 12-month deal and going, oh, so have you guys been utilising the tool? Just want to know if you want to pay us some more money again. Okay, we're orchestrating a relationship that's designed around helping them achieve their impact. Okay, this constantly focused around that impact. And when we go through, all right, all the way from the left to the right, and this is a circle that keeps on flowing, is when that's when we get into that sort of SaaS focus, customer-centric methodology. The other thing that we need to do is start looking at role specialization. That's asking a lot of people, for individuals to be able to do across that whole broad spectrum. Okay, so the companies that we've worked with in Germany, we've had a couple of different mixes. Okay, we've had some which is similar to where I'm from, okay, down in Australia, where they've got the full cycle sales rep, okay, where the sales rep looks after all of this. Okay, when they're looking after all of that, we typically find that a lot falls through. Okay, we've also worked some others that have actually got a sort of slightly different multi-stage process. And to talk you through here, I mean, this is what we've got is this is for more of a high velocity sales environment. So the 25K and less, okay, for a lot of them, where we've got marketing that looks after the awareness. Okay, they're creating sort of marketing qualified leads by asking people to download white papers, to conduct a demo. We then get a marketing development rep. Okay, someone who answers the phone, who just or calls these people up, asks them how they can help. Then hands across those leads to an account executive. Okay, then we give it to someone to help people become technically proficient with that onboarding, and then ultimately it goes across to a customer success manager who orchestrates that relationship and is responsible for that upsell and growth. If we look at this, it's slightly different for these big accounts, okay? So this is probably more for that 25K to 100K and kind of opportunities. The team's slightly different. It's a sales development rep who's responsible for the awareness, okay, and education. The account executive is that then sort of helps people through to that win. Okay, we then go through that onboarding specialist again. We've got a CSM there who's responsible for making sure the customers are successful. But then it's more of a typical sales motion that a lot of us sort of know and recognise to be able to identify that further growth opportunity within these accounts. So there's there's obviously different types of ways that these teams can collaborate together. One of the ways that we've seen best is the fact we've got to treat selling as a team sport. If we're thinking about that impact all the way from that awareness to growth, we've got to think about how does that message and conversation translate? How do we get the lessons that were learned in the growth stage to the people right at the front of the funnel so they can be more effective? Okay, and it happens by actually sort of creating teams or pods of growth. And you have different pods based on sort of different requirements. We've got a couple here that are based typically around like a go-to market strategy. But then there's also pods that are aligned by customer verticals. Okay, love it when we see them based around the customer verticals and focused on a single problem. Okay, then other ones could be based around geography. Lots of different ways to be able to do it. But as long as there's a consistent flow, that's what we're chasing. So how do we improve? Okay, improvement really comes by focusing on these specific moments. Okay, a lot of the times we ask leaders in these businesses a lot of them are in high growth phase. Okay, so they've got to go out and double revenue. How are they going to double revenue? A lot of them, I'm going to double my spend on marketing and go get more leads. Or I'm going to go hire more salespeople and double the amount that we sort of go through and get through the diagnose. They're looking to implement one thing. But what we find is that if you make those small changes, okay, across that sales cycle, all right, we move away from that very much additive mindset and start getting into that ability to be able to multiply. Because if you make a 10% change across 7 moments, you end up doubling your revenue. Okay, 10 small changes across the whole process, you'll double your revenue. So guys, I wanted to share with you just some benchmarks. Okay, some of you are furiously going to be going out taking photos. All right, but while you've got your phones out, we'll be able to get access to these benchmarks. So all you have to do is just go here, bit.ly/sas.bm. Take a photo of that. It's going to be live for a little while, but these are benchmarks that we've collected across our engagements with all of our customers. Okay, and they're not going to be exactly right for your business, but they're going to be indicative to what we see. Everyone got that? Awesome. So let's talk about how to do it. Actually, how to go out and be able to go make this change. So we're going to talk about 3 things. Okay, the first one we're going to be talking about is adopting a data-driven model. Okay, this is the crux of treating sales as a science, and it's never too early to start collecting data, but we've got to start collecting the right data. Okay, a lot of the times when we see a business, their very much focus is on the volume metrics. Admittedly, then a lot of them aren't capturing enough of the volume metrics, but that's all they're focused on. Okay, we've got to move beyond that. We've also got to be thinking about, hey, look, what are these efficiency metrics? Or sorry, effectiveness metrics, as we're looking at the conversion rates between each stages of these funnels. Now, we need to be cognizant of where we're putting these stages in the funnel. Okay, when are we having these listening posts? To be able to understand and verify where we are in the sales process. Okay, and then we've got to measure the efficiency. We're actually sort of looking at that time. So if we break this down a little bit, we've got to start with a process, and we'll touch on that a little bit further shortly. Okay, we've got sort of volume inbound and outbound volume metrics. Okay, we've then got to go look at those conversion metrics and then efficiency with time. When we start actually thinking about our sales processes, that we start getting this closed loop model that enables us to continue to learn, iterate and evolve what we're doing, shape it to the customer. Okay, identify those new opportunities for growth. Make sure we don't over-invest in poor channels or poor geographies. Okay, we've got to stop taking it away from what sales is at the moment. All right? A lot of the times it's a finger in the air, gut feel from the sales leader. Okay, if we follow that process, a lot of the time that leads to very, very poor decisions. So let's go on to number 2, all right? Enabling with blueprints. So this is a quote here from Jacco, just talking about your ability to be able to learn and translate that learning into action is the ultimate competitive advantage. So this is similar to what we talked about earlier around adopting a data-driven model. But the reality is we need a process to be able to base that on. And that process really comes around blueprints. And so we're going to look at a couple here. Here's a very, very simple sales process, okay, based around probably that 5 to 25K sort of sales model where we've got marketing, sort of that sales development rep, we've got sort of an AE, onboarding teams, CS and growth. Okay, so there's this here, and we're going to show you guys where you can get access to these kinds of resources and start playing with your own a little bit later. But we need a process. We need something documented so you can iterate on. It's never too early to write it down. Okay, really early stage businesses, we encourage you to put this living on a whiteboard in the office. Challenge it, each and every customer conversation. What do you do at each stage to be able to make that successful? And then as you grow and as you scale, you then start building that playbook of what success is. But let's go look a little bit further. We want to highlight exactly, this is looking at a broad sales process. Let's look at one element of that, the diagnose call. Customers, we actually spend a lot of our time on the phones, with them, listening, all right, being a part of their sales conversations. And what we've learned is there is a blueprint of what can help you have success here. Okay, so on the y-axis we've got engagement, and the x we've got over time. But there's a couple of things that happen. I mean, we're also asking setting off the meeting properly. Okay, we'll delve into that a little bit further shortly. People asking a small number of situational questions, a couple of pain questions. Okay, and this is the kicker that no one does very well. Summarise what you've heard. Show the customer that you care, that you've listened. Okay, validate that you've heard them correctly. Go through and actually go and share some insights with them as well. Empathise and then ask them some impact questions. So this isn't a script, this is a framework, okay? A blueprint of what you need to be able to include in your diagnose calls, to be able to understand exactly what are the odds, can we help this person or not? Because that's what we're trying to validate. But let's break this down a little bit further. Okay, let's just look at the one really small part of this diagnose call. Okay, how you kick off the meeting. Okay, you've got to start the meeting with a purpose. Right? We're going to talk a little bit around this acronym. American company, we love acronyms. Sorry, apologies for that. But the way we start, we've got to be able to start a meeting with purpose. Okay, a lot of the times, yet again, when we're listening to sales calls, we find that people start it very, very different each and every time. Okay, that's like your favourite sporting team just running out over the white line, just saying, I don't know, let's just wing it today. Never leads to good results. Okay, so a great way that we see this is just to be able to ace a call. Okay, so on a call, hey, look, really appreciate you taking the time to speak to me today. Just want to check, are we still good for that 30 minutes? Great. Okay, and the end goal of today's conversation is to figure out whether or not it's worthwhile us continuing conversation and exploring our solution. Does that sound like a good use of your time? It's a really, really simple thing, okay? All we're doing is introducing that, look, throughout this conversation, we're going to be having a conversation. And at the end of the conversation, you get to tell me whether you get to walk away or not. Okay, we're having an upfront contract of what's going to happen at the end. And then you get to the end of the call, and then what do you think you do? You link it back to the start. Hey, at the start of the conversation, we talked about sort of making a decision as to whether or not this is something you'd be interested in exploring further. So what do you think? It's really simple. This is focused around the customer achieving their objectives. And we're able to do that. We're then able to link it to the next meeting. From there, we link it to the end of the next meeting. Okay, so success for us, we're in that proposal stage where you see a demonstration. Who else needs to be involved in that? Do we need to get your legal team involved so they can learn about sort of what other elements are involved? Who else needs to be a part of this within your team? We can start thinking and being proactive, driving, closing the wagons together and creating more speed and velocity in our sales process. But the reality is when you break down this sales process, there's lots of really minute things that we can go work on and improve. Okay, so there's this great quote from Bruce Lee. I always love it when you get to quote Bruce Lee in a sales process, where he talks about, I fear not the man who practices 10,000 kicks, okay, but I fear the man who has practiced one kick 10,000 times. And this is the biggest challenge that we see with sales training and role plays. People are just practicing whatever they want to do at any particular point in time. Okay, there's no structure. They're not mastering a skill before they move on, which brings us to the third part. We've got to stop managing. Okay, we've got to stop managing our reps and start coaching them, start enabling them. Okay, old school management, very much focused around sort of that endorphins of, hey, you just got to go out there and work harder. You work harder, you're going to hit your goal. And if you get your goal, you'll get to go to President's Club, okay, driving those endorphins and dopamine rushes. But with today's sales reps, we've got to change. We've got to be driving new things, okay? We've got to be sort of fueling the serotonin by helping them to adopt these new skills, okay, recognising them for that work that they're doing to be able to succeed there. And then to be able to fuel the oxytocin by helping them know that they're part of something bigger and building trust with them through the process. So how do we do that? Okay, we like to adopt an old educational principle, okay? 10, 20, 70. Okay, talk about that. 10% of learning is done in the classroom. For most companies that we speak to, this is 100%. 100% of the learning takes place in a classroom. Okay, it might happen once, twice, if you're lucky, 3 times a year. Okay, you might do it at a sales kickoff where you've had a couple of drinks the night before, you've lost all your memory of everything that's happened. I know, I've been to a few of those. But this is where the learning happens. We've got to take it beyond there. Okay, and we find that this happens a lot within the role plays because we've got to move beyond, okay, the manager being the bastion of all things right around sales execution. The reality is we've got to enable everyone in the team to be able to be that coach to create a coaching culture. So we've got to talk about, we've got to be doing a lot more regular role plays, having sort of a real philosophy around each one, teach one, okay? Enabling all the other reps to be able to be that coach. And that can only happen when you've got a documented process, okay? When people are coaching on their ability to be able to execute a process which is very objective, besides the very subjective sales feedback of, well, back in my day, I used to have to walk and sell barefoot in the snow, so you guys don't know anything. Okay, so we've got to change the way in which we have conversations, and we need to leverage the process to do that. And then we've got to enable people to leverage these processes, these blueprints, out in the real world. Okay, so that means we've got to give them the tools to be able to succeed so they can practice it and then they can come back together. But also, we talk about creating that coaching cadence needs to be a big part of this. It can't be left for those singular events, quarterly, annual events. Okay, you've got to think about what's that monthly focus, all right? What's the one moment we're looking to impact this month? Okay, what are the core elements we need to focus on weekly? And then what are those daily drills that we need to do in our 15-minute stand-up? Okay, where we're focusing and doing these role plays. So there's three big things, right? And there's obviously quite a lot that we've covered off here today. But as I said, the slide says we're here to help. So I did show quite a few sort of pictures that we've got, and also comes from the basis of the methodology. So on Amazon, you'll be able to find that there's a whole bunch of books talking around the new world of B2B sales. Okay, the ones that we've got on the back half with the solid colours are also very tactical. These are very much workbooks, okay, with the skills, how to write emails in a customer-centric approach, how to actually diagnose, do a demo that people don't get bored with. Okay, really simple things there. To be able to help you take that a little bit further, there's a whole bunch of videos on YouTube, where we actually sort of go through, provide you examples of role plays, even help you design your sales team, how to find an efficient way to be able to generate leads. Okay, then actually going a lot into the very much soft skills that are required to succeed. And then we've got a whole bunch of blueprints there, okay, going from the sales process down to the diagnose. So these are all available in a tool called Lucid Charts. Okay, Lucid Charts, where you can get their free access, and you can get free into Lucid Charts, and you get free access to all of our blueprints which we publish. Okay, this is all available to enable you guys to succeed. Okay, so there's, in summary, there's this part we've got to be able to go with tools to enable you to study. Right? We've got tools to enable you to adopt the skills, because adopting skills and going through the behavioural change required is not easy and does not happen right the first time. Okay? We've got to keep practicing this time and time again. And then we've got the blueprints, okay, enable you to be able to design your own, to make them your own. Okay, but I just want to leave you this one thought, okay, from our crazy Dutch founder, all right? But that if you focus on giving your customer a great experience, okay, across those different moments, those same sort of popsicle moments, look, the results will definitely follow. So thank you very much for your time.